All right, let's head to the Central here. We're going to go in the Midwest. Let's go to the Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs have been, in my mind, one of the most interesting teams this offseason. They have done so many interesting things. They go and sign Dansby Swanson. They signed Trey Mancini. There's a lot of different additions that they have signed to this squad. However, there's still a glaring need in my mind, and that's who's going to play third base. It seems like maybe Nick Madrigal could be a possibility, but he also seems like he could also be the odd man out as well. Could be a trade candidate. We've heard that the other side of town, the White Sox, are interested in having a reunion with Madrigal. That could be an interesting conversation. However, with Dansby Swanson sitting at shortstop, who is going to play next to him at that hot corner? What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation in Chicago because really they do have the guys to play third base, but neither one of them is like the perfect solution. And of course, I'm talking about everybody knows Patrick Wisdom, and of course his counterpart, Christopher Morel, 23 years old. That's going to be a tough ask to step in at such a young age to be the everyday third baseman. What's interesting to me, though, when you look at these two options, you're looking at two guys who are very similar at the plate in that there's power there, lots of strikeouts, but the difference being, excuse me, is that Patrick Wisdom is a little bit less versatile, right? So Christopher Morel can play just about anywhere on the diamond. So that's, to me, like, maybe gives Patrick Wisdom like the edge. But the one thing that I think gives Christopher Morel the edge is his arm strength, which is like 99th percentile stuff here, right? Like that's almost too tempting not to put him on third base. So, I mean, really at the end of the day, for me, what this comes down to is if the Cubs are in it, I think July is when they find their real third baseman, a more solid solution than what they have right now. They can run the guys out there, and both of them projected to hit 20 home runs, strike out at around 30%. And that's good enough. But if you're going to make a serious run and you're that close, I think you need a third baseman.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can totally see that third baseman being a revolving door at the first half of the season for the Cubs, and especially with the players they have. No one really glares as yes, you have to start this guy over another when it comes to Madrigal over Wisdom or so on or so forth. I do think that is going to really help their bench if they decide to add them, because multiple players of those can be utility players, not just play third base. So I do think that could help their bench. I think the Cubs are going to be one of those really interesting teams this year. I think we're going to see them really shock the NL Central and become one of those teams that is right up there with St. Louis and Milwaukee right away. And then maybe we'll see some buys, or maybe a Texas Rangers style kind of season like we saw last year, where there's a lot of issues. I know there's some glaring needs at pitching still. We haven't even talked about pitching. We're still talking about the third base spot.
Yeah.
And they coast in, and maybe they find a way to sell some of those utility guys for a couple of young guys and keep building their farm system and so forth. I think it's a complete one or the other. I'm not sure. I think there's an opportunity we could see this team just easily 500 as well. I have so many questions about this Cubs team, but I do know they're going to be really exciting. It's not just going to be a two-team race in the NL Central this year. I think the Cubs are going to give a run for their money, and who knows about the Pirates and Reds too? I mean, I think the Reds are going to be pretty bad, but who knows about those teams? They could steal a couple and really make it change. I'm not saying they're going to compete for the very top, but they could be a Cinderella story maybe later on in the year. I do like this conversation though. This will be a conversation that we pay attention to at the beginning of the spring training. We are going to have to definitely come back and talk about this when they do maybe make a decision, or if the position battle continues on, who's going to play third base for the Chicago Cubs.